applications. So I share my screen. Can you see the first slide?
Yes, Rajesh. Yeah, you can go ahead.
So like I mentioned last time, we were speaking about the trends in non-packaging applications. So this time we thought, okay, let's touch upon all the segments uh, wherein we try to give you an overview of the global trends that are happening in extrusion blow molding industry with some extra focus on the packaging sector. So before we start, of course, I have to start with a small introduction about Kautex. Uh, this year, 2020, actually, we were very optimistic. We were very motivated during the start of this year because this year also happens to be 3 anniversaries. We finished 85 years of manufacturing in our German plant, and our in US we complete 60 years, and we have a manufacturing facility in China, which was celebrating its silver jubilee. So we started on a high note, but then you know what happened after that. Uh, Definitely not the best year for machine manufacturers and for industry in general. Uh, the ownership, the latest with Kautex is that now we are owned by a family called Neumann family. This is also the same family which owns a lot of other plastic processing companies, including Engel injection molding machines. The presence, so we are a German company based out of Bonn, with a manufacturing facility in Germany and in China. Plus, we have all subsidiaries all across. So the slide that you see right now only talks about the Kautex fully owned subsidiaries. And in India, we are present since 2014, and we are based out of Bangalore, and we take care of sales and service of machines for the Indian market, plus Sri Lanka and neighboring countries. So let's go to the main part of the presentation where we touch upon the different market applications. So we have segmented the market into 4 major areas. So packaging and non-packaging. So in packaging, we have industrial and consumer packaging. So when I say consumer packaging, these are basically smaller products, let's say below 50 liters, and industrial packaging are bigger, L-ring drums, IBCs. And then for the non-packaging applications, we have 2 segments called specialties and automotive. Automotive used to be our bread and butter. We sold a lot of machines for plastic fuel tanks and other automotive parts. And specialties are the segments which are not really included in any of the 3 segments, like composite cylinders, toys, some special applications like garden houses, boats. These are segmented into the specialty business. So let's first touch upon the consumer packaging area. Like I mentioned, this is one of the, let's say, fastest growing market. Also, what we see is not a market that is mainly affected by this coronavirus and the downturn. This industry still continues to do good. The only problem that we are facing with this industry in India is the shortage of manpower. But apart from that, the order books of most of these processing companies are full. So the different segments, or let's say the sub-segments in this area would be packaging, detergents, FMCG industry, lube oil, food, pharmaceutical industries. Yeah, and the main end users like Unilever, Reckitt Benckiser, Henkel. So when it comes to packaging, what are the main drivers? The market is getting global. The number of SKUs are increasing each day. There is a 200 ml pack, there is a 250, 300, 400, I mean, n number of packs that the consumer is spoiled for choices. The time for the market is really short. The end user designs something and next day he wants it in the market. There is a wide variety of product. So even with this, let's say lube oil of Castrol itself has so many different variations. So it's really difficult, yeah, to so all these SKUs have to differentiate one from the other. if you look at the product in general, there is a demand for reducing the weight. There is a demand for a greener footprint, reducing the carbon footprint. And of course, when it comes to production, there are different challenges that as a processor, one face. Frequent color changes, the energy consumption has to be less, the machine has to run 25 hours out of 24 hours, just in time delivery. So there is a lot of pressure on the processor because of these, let's say, new challenges. So as a machine manufacturer, how do we address that? Of course, like in injection molding, extrusion blow molding also is moving gradually towards electric machines, which are faster, which gives you a more precise movement, gives you higher output. The energy consumption is much lesser. Repeatability is better because of more precise movements, and you can start up these machines faster. There is no waiting for hydraulic oil to warm up. You can just switch on the machine. And let's say this thing with electric things, electric machines, electric cars, everything is more cleaner than an hydraulic machine or a similar product. And of course, you hardly hear these machines running. So if you talk about only the energy saving, just on the movement side, because if you look at things like heating, extruder running, irrespective of the fact that it's an electric machine or a hydraulic machine, it consumes the same. It's only in the movement of these machines that electric machines goes. And what we see is, if you compare a new generation electric machine with a new generation hydraulic machine, we still see a 40 to 42% savings only on the electric, on the movement of the machine. But then electric machine, you have a good machine is one part of it. It is not complete unless you have a good mold, a high quality mold. And because of the flexibility you need, you really need to change, have faster mold changeover times. So we also have, let's say, solutions wherein we can give you faster mold changeover times, mold changeover in less than, let's say, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And if you are fully equipped, we can also target a mold change in 10 minutes. So mold change with quick connect couplings, blow pins with quick connect couplings, head changing over, because it does not make sense to have two machines with for two different products if you can accommodate everything in one single machine by changing the head. So customers are also looking at this kind of flexibility wherein they have one machine and different kind of heads, like you have different kind of molds. That's one part. Now we have to look at the downstream. The major problem that the processing companies are facing right now is the lack of manpower. So automation is something which we really have to look very eagerly towards. Sorry, is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I get a message that the screen sharing is paused, so just wondering. So
The letters are small, actually.
Pardon me?
The letters are
Actually,
small.
your screen is not in a slideshow. Probably you have to put it in a slideshow to move forward.
Okay.
Actually.
Let me check that. Do you see the screen now?
Now it's okay.
Oh, okay, perfect. Good. So I was talking about the downstream equipments along with the machine. It's also very important. One of the major time-consuming factors when it comes to blow molding or injection molding is the cooling. This directly affects the cycle time. But if you're talking about jerry cans and all, these products can also be cooled outside the machine. You don't really have to use the machine time for cooling. So post-cooling stations are now getting integrated with the machine. So you have the possibility of integrating it with the machine. At the same time, you can, these are also plug and play systems. So you can use it for one machine. If you don't need it on that machine, you can just slide it and fix it on the next machine. Yeah? At the same time, you can also use it for bottom correction, which is very critical for jerry cans, stackable jerry cans. So this can be used also for double station machine, for single station machines based upon your machine output. And you can increase the number based upon what is the output of the machine. Next is the quality center. You have to make sure that the bottles that are coming out of the machine are, let's say, 100% tested. So what we have is a leak tester integrated with a weighing machine, which can directly be controlled with the machine control panel. So the parts which are in tolerance are pushed on to the next station, whereas the parts which are out of tolerance are removed then and there. Another thing, let's say post labeling, you cannot have manual labor just checking if each and every label is clearly placed, if the neck dimensions are fine, if the ovality is fine. So we can also have the possibility of a spot watcher wherein we have different cameras or a single camera which can move around this part and take pictures and images and check if the entire product is within tolerance as defined by the end user. So with this, let's say plug and play downstream equipments, we are totally removing any kind of manual intervention. So this can go on up to fully packing. So you can have a separate packaging line. So there is no manual intervention anywhere. And we have seen with a single operator, you are running 4 to 5 machines in the shop floor. So that's on the machinery part of it. Now let's talk about the processing aspect. So in the processing aspect also, we have new technologies getting evolved. Multi-layer is something which was there in the market since long, and now it is slowly getting more and more acceptance because of the fact that it is saving cost, it is sustainable, it improves the properties of your product. At the same time, it also improves the visual appearance and the feel of the product. So I just touch upon these aspects, how we are able to do this. Of course, the barrier properties also. So let's say for packaging segment, number 3, which is for milk or FMCG, a coax 3, a 3-layer structure is the one that is more commonly used. Whereas we have layer structure from monolayer to 7 layers. Whereas in case of 7 layers, it's mainly for automotive purpose, but for FMCG, what we see mainly is either a 2-layer, wherein there are 2 different layers of material, and outer layer, which is mainly for your master batch, and the inner layer. And you have for food and other applications, you have something called 3-layer, in which you have the innermost layer, which is a virgin material. So your product, which is inside, let's say milk or any colored fluid, is not really affected by the master batch that we are using. And you have the middle layer where you use the regrind, and you have the outermost layer where you are just adding the master batch. So here in the middle layer, like I mentioned, you can either use your PCR material, which is gaining more and more prominence right now. A lot of companies investing heavily in this PCR to give, let's say, to make the bottle more green and to improve the UV properties. And there is another added advantage that we can use this middle layer for something called foaming, which is in the chemical foaming or physical foam. The main target is to reduce the weight here. An example, let's look at an example where we talk about a three-layer milk bottle, wherein the outside layer is HDPE plus white master batch, the middle layer is HDPE with carbon for UV protection, and the innermost layer is your virgin HDPE, which has the lowest migration. If you look at the foaming structure, physical foaming is something which is getting more and more prominence nowadays, wherein we use the middle structure for foaming. And in this case, what we use is a nucleating agent and a gas, which is either carbon dioxide or nitrogen. And we pump this in the middle layer, and you create a foam-like structure. The main advantage here is that you have a possibility of reducing the weight of the product without actually impacting the physical properties, or you can keep the same weight, with better physical properties, with better top load and all. So something which is definitely gaining more and more traction in the market. Now, next, with the 3-layer structure, what we see is the savings that the processor has. So in this case, let's talk about, give an example of a 20-liter jerry can, which gross weight, that is the weight including of flash, everything, is around 1.2 kg. We have a cycle time of around 30 seconds and with an output of 151 kg. Yeah. Now, if we're using a master batch here, so let's compare it from a mono layer to a 3-layer. So in this case, in a 3-layer structure, we are only using master batch in the outermost layer, that is the 20% of your thickness. So if you look at this point, master batch consumption is only 1.5% in mono layer, but it increases to 3%. So it's only a percentage increase, because instead of coloring the entire thickness, you are only coloring a small portion. So you have to put an extra dosage of master batch in percentage wise, but the actual consumption of master batch is much lesser. So just by, okay, this figure varies from processor to processor depending upon what is the cost of master batch that you're using, what is the kind of product you're manufacturing. But if you take an example of a master batch which costs around €6, which is a Pearly high quality master batch, you can easily are looking at a cost saving of around 60,000, 50 to 60,000 euro in an year by moving to a 3-layer structure. But having said all these things, we also have to make sure that the machine is actually running at full efficiency. There is no downtime when it comes to color change, when it comes to head change. So that's an area which Kautex is investing heavily on, and there's a lot of R&D which we are doing right now. So faster color change with our new generation head is something which has been successfully achieved. Now, what we are looking at here is a case study wherein we go for a 3-layer structure, whereas we had a reference case where it took almost 50 minutes to get a 98% clear bottle. With this new generation head, we are looking at around 20 minutes. And this was successfully demonstrated in a few live seminars that we conducted. And also at the K-Fair, this was displayed. So what you are looking at is a material purging, material consumption of purging, a saving of almost 80%. More and more plastics that are used, people want to try these green plastics that is made from non-petroleum sources. So that's also something which is gaining more and more acceptance in the market. So a lot of end users are trying to project themselves more green by using these green polymers. These are slightly expensive side compared to STP, but at the same time, they are the processors along with these end users and the material manufacturers are working out how to make this PCR more and more affordable and how to make these bottles more and more green. But having said all that, there is a major impact of IT and communication on these machines. We have to make sure that the machines are running. There is no downtime. The machines are online all the time, so we can actually give you recommendations on when you need to do any modifications, if there is any spare parts which you need to keep in stock. At the same time, you have something called virtual machines, wherein the machine, you don't have to stop the machine for any kind of cleaning. You have these virtual machines with the same HMI as the machine, but the machine image is projected on a wall or on a screen, and you can actually do all these parameter settings, and this you can see if the machine is actually working well, or if there are any, let's say, shorts or any issues or any processing problems. So you can get a feel of all these aspects. So whenever you get a machine first, it's always better to have your team spend some time on this HMI so that they know that, okay, this is what we are going to get, this is how the functions are, because each manufacturer has their own HMIs, and so the basic logic is the same, but it always needs some kind of time to getting to get, let's say, acknowledged with this product. The second aspect of packaging, which we would like to touch upon, is industrial packaging. Generally, what we mentioned for the consumer packaging is more or less also applicable for the industrial packaging segment. So when I say industrial packaging, we are looking at stackable jerry cans, bigger jerry cans, polycarbonate bottles, L-ring drums, IBCs. So let's take an example of L-ring drum. Yeah, we have a lot of machines working in India and across the world for L-ring drums. If I take a standard case, UN approved L-ring drum of around 8.5 kg, then we used to get an output of around 20 plus drums an hour, but now with this constant demand from the market, high output and constant working or reworking on the machine, we are now confident of producing around 53 drums in an hour of 8.5 kg weight. So if you are reducing the weight, then your output is varying. If you're increasing the weight, the output is going less. So this is achieved by having machines which are having lower dry cycle time, having head which gives you very high output. And interestingly, we are moving away from accumulator technology and going more with continuous extrusion. This means that there is also a lot of power savings on the machine when we are moving away from accumulator technology. Here also we are looking at different kind of configurations, whereas we have a monolayer machine. This can also be 2-layer, 3-layer, can also be beyond that. But what we see is the market requires more of a 3-layer structure when it comes to L-ring drums. So like I mentioned, the head is very important here when it comes to continuous extrusion. And with our new generation head, we are looking at an output of around 650 kg per hour in mono or 3-layer applications. And the color change over time is also very critical. What we are looking at is around 2 hours to change from, in this case, for the bigger machines, from one color to another. A lot of downstream equipments are also needed here. So one of the critical points which we would like to highlight is the plasma technology, wherein we give an coating of plasma in the inner layer, and this is basically to improve the barrier properties. So this was something which was already used in PET market, but then for the first time, let's say since last K, it's also getting used in extrusion blow molding segment. So plasma coating is something which is coming up as a big alternative for multi-layer structures. Just an overview of the line. So in this case, it's a single station machine. We have this output is basically dependent upon also the number of post cooling stations we have. We don't want to use the machine for cooling the product because the machine is there to produce the product, and cooling can be done using the post cooling stations. Also for deflashing. So once the part is deflashed, it goes to the post cooling station and from there to the quality center. This is a single station machine. Now, if you're looking at a double station machine, that is for customers who need even further output, then we also have a possibility of making it a double station machine to further increase the output. Accordingly, all your features like the post cooling station, leak testing, deflashing station will have to be modified. But if you're looking at really high output, then that is also practical right now. So if you summarize for these big machines, what we are looking at, these machines, from these machines are very high efficiency, high output, different kind of layer configurations, so multi-layer, high article weight accuracy. At the same time, as we are moving towards the direct extrusion, we are also looking at low energy consumption and downstream automation. So the last two segments, what we have here is automotive and specialties. I would just briefly touch upon these two segments. So when I say automotive, there are two segments, two sub-segments. Let's say in automotive, we have the motor management functional components, that is the non-fuel parts, and then we have the fuel parts. The fuel systems includes your petrol tank, diesel tanks, your CNG tanks, and your filler pipes. That is the connection between the petrol tank to your fuel inlet. So what we see here is a trend towards use of blow molding for type 4 applications. So when I say type 4 applications, we have a plastic core which is strapped using a fiberglass or a carbon fiber. Yeah. So in this case, what we see is a CNG is a typical example wherein we have this HDPE core, a blow molded HDPE part, and you have a carbon fiber filament winding, which is giving the strength to the part. And with this product, we are actually achieving a burst pressure of around 700 bar. And the test pressure is usually around 500 bar. If you look at the working pressure, this is around 250 bar. So this kind of, let's say, high pressure requirements are now met by this product called the CPV, which is called composite pressure vessels. So this is something which is getting more and more acceptance because now mobility is moving towards electric, but at the same time, there are also a lot of companies, also a lot of end users who are also looking at CNG for their bigger vehicles, and they are looking at hydrogen for their smaller vehicles, for their smaller passenger vehicles. When it comes to hydrogen, the requirements are even more stringent. We are looking at a burst pressure of 1500 bar, yeah, and a working pressure of anywhere between 20 to 800 plus bar. So this is again, in this case also, we use HDPE or nylon to blow mold the inner liner, the inner product, and we use the carbon fiber to give the strength to the product by winding it. Another example where we use composite pressure vessels is for your brake tanks. The pressure requirements are much lesser, but then the main challenge here is the kind of product is not standard. Each truck has, I don't know, 5 to 6 brake tanks. At the same time, they may be of different sizes with different kind of openings. But this is also in one market, which is we have composite pressure vessels being used. The main advantage with these three products is, of course, the life. We don't have problems like corrosion, and at the same time, you're looking at a much lower weight compared to the steel cylinders. Another area which in automotive that we have right now is producing these parts and making sure the parts have low weight by again injecting gas. So very similar to what we saw in the FMCG industry, where we use the middle layer for foaming, because this has to be encapsulated by the two sides. In this case, okay, we can use it also as a two-layer structure because the aesthetic requirements are not that high when it comes to automotive parts. So we have a two-layer structure, and we are looking at productions easily of around 20. Okay, in this case, it was around 28%. The last segment which I like to touch upon is the specialties. So here in this case, we have products like the palace, you have garden houses, composite cylinders, big parts like kayaks, almost 4 meters in length, which are now getting blow molded. So a lot of complicated products which were initially proto molded are moving towards blow molding as the consumption or your output requirements are increasing. Also, products like shoe soles, toys are also getting blow molded now. So if you look at the LPG cylinder, which is also present in Indian market, but in a comparatively lower number, this is also blow molded, yeah. And the same concept that I mentioned when in CNG cylinders and hydrogen cylinders is used for LPG. The advantages here being the weight of these cylinders are much lesser, they're easy to handle, and the life, because there is no corrosion, is much longer than compared to a steel cylinder. So if you look at the components of a composite pressure vessel, so we have the polymer, and then we have the parts that have to be welded, and the fiber. In this case, we make the blow molded part out of HDPE. We use the filament winding technology for winding the fiber across the part. And this entire assembly goes into an injection molded case, which is mainly for aesthetics and for handling purposes. Yeah, so basically this is what we are doing in different segments in the market. Now, I mean, just have a look at what Kautex Machinery base is. We have around 6,500 machines working in the market for these different kind of applications. More and more number of machines are now more electric machines. More and more number of machines are now multi-layer machines. When it comes to fuel tanks, there has been a dip of number of machine sales since 2019, because now more and more people are talking about electric machines, new generation cars. So the electric machine vehicle is shooting up, and at the same time, the end users are also looking at products like hydrogen, CNG, which seems to be a more practical and a viable option. So, like I mentioned, machinery is, of course, our bread and butter, but we also make sure that we are helping you with all kind of retrofits. So if you want to upgrade an existing machine, or if you want to have an other brand machine which you want to modify, so we help you with that, any kind of developments. Because if you, for example, if you're planning to enter into an LPG market, I mean, there are n number of regulations, there are n number of approvals that are required, a lot of development activities that is required. So we try to give you turnkey solution wherein we take the full responsibility of the product. At the same time, when it comes to an FMCG market where the end user wants to launch something new, so we also help you with product simulation, line simulation, how to optimize the article, how to optimize the energy consumption. Yeah. So basically, this is what I compiled for this seminar. I hope you find this useful, and please feel free to get in touch for any kind of queries and questions.
Thank you so much, Rajesh.